What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the best epics in every faction. I'm going to pick one epic from every faction, and we're going to highlight that epic. I feel like this video needed to be made just because I haven't made a top epic video in about a year, and a lot has changed in that year. So we'll put in a lot of consideration towards the new content in the game, and of course, we'll decide which champions are the best per faction. I want to limit it to one epic per faction just because we're going to be talking about tons and tons of epics potentially in some of the factions. Let me know in the comments below if you guys agree or disagree with some of my choices. Obviously, I will try my best to justify them. And yeah, we'll have some fun along the way. So let's jump right into it. All right, so first things first, let's jump into the Banner Lords. The best epic, in my opinion, is still the GOAT himself, the GOAT Man or the Stag Man, Stag Knight. Still incredibly good. He's even better now after some of the new content drops. Let me explain. His A1 brings decreased speed. Very, very strong against the brand new Chimera boss. Decreased speed is very, very good against him. He can be used in this setting. Decreased speed is also very good in Iron Twins, as well as Fire Knight Hard. Some of the hardest dungeons in the game, Stag Knight is still very good, bringing decreased defense and decreased attack on a single ability as well. Very good base stats as well for an epic champion. Keep in mind, a little tip here when you guys are using Stag Knight, when you guys are doing his masteries, make sure you guys give him the Sniper Mastery. This gives him an additional 5% chance to land his decreased defense, putting it up to 100%. Otherwise, if you don't give him the Sniper Mastery, he's going to be stuck at 95%. So just something to keep in mind when you guys are building out your Stag Knights. But to me, he's going to be the best champion from the Banner Lords in terms of the epics. Second best here, I would say Ursula. Ursula is still very, very strong, especially as a team reviver, but I still think Stag Knight is the best here, and he's gotten better over time, actually. Up next in the High Elves for the best epic slot, I would still give that honor to Royal Guard. Royal Guard is still incredibly good. He's going to be good in a lot of endgame areas as well. He brings decreased speed here, as well as a decreased defense on his A1. He does have the max HP slam, which is still going to be good in the usual max HP areas. He can pitch in a little bit of damage in Chimera as well, which is obviously a new content area. But he's not going to be an insane damage dealer there just because of how frequent his enemy max HP does go off. Decreased speed does help a little bit against Chimera as well, but it's not going to be your main source since it's on a 4-turn cooldown. Still one of the best, not the best crop of epics for High Elves. No honorable mention here would be Neldor. Neldor can be very good for like hard Fire Knight with his A1 chance to freeze, dropping the Fire Knight's turn meter. But yeah, I think overall Royal Guard is still going to be very good, especially along if you're just progressing through the game. He's going to be very good for early game Spider, for example, as well as early game Fire Knight as well in normal difficulty. So moving on to the Sacred Orders here, best epic in my opinion is a bit of a tough one because there's a couple good ones here, but I gotta give it to Godseeker here. I think she fills a very, very important niche role. She gives you access to level 25 Sand Devil without too much investment. What I mean by this is that besides Godseeker, there's just not too many options that gives you access to level 25. You have to have basically a full team if you don't have this single Godseeker plus a DPS like an HP burn or max HP damage dealer. So having the Godseeker saves you tons of resources, gives you access to the top level of Sand Devil, and it's mainly because of the way her passive and her revive work together against the Sand Devil. Obviously, there's going to be some really good epics here. We got Deacon, very good mid game, early game, late game champion, bringing the speed lead, turn meter boost, AoE decreased defense. And then Shamael here with the passive that deals with the fear head against in Hydra. Very, very good epics, but I think overall Godseeker is just the most impact you can have on a account that is not like fully blessed with like multiple max HP champions and a team that you can build around. So for me, it's Godseeker from the Sacred Order. Coming up next, we have the Barbarian faction here. In terms of epics, the standout epic from this faction is going to be the Fat Man here. Very, very strong team ally attack, minus himself, of course, but otherwise it's going to be a team one. He also brings the A1 decreased defense and additional damage to bosses with HP burn and poisons. Very good damage pumping epic here. Has a kind of interesting passive, not necessarily the best, but a little bit interesting just to give him a little bit more survivability. He has pretty low base stats overall. But the big thing about him is that he has this basically ally attack with the crit rate and crit damage buff. Very good for Chimera as well because he does fill up some of the trials. So he can deal with some of the trials like the HP burn trial, the poison trial, or the crit rate, crit damage trial as well. Also brings a single target decreased defense to help you basically land the debuffs all the time against the Chimera. So his value definitely went up with that new Chimera boss. Moving on to Ogryn Tribes in terms of the best epic in this faction. There's some pretty good epics in here. We have Skull Crusher, we have Maneater, obviously enabling the unkillable teams, but I think it's going to go to Ugo here. She's still incredibly good because she brings the AoE block buffs and decreased defense. Not many champions bring a AoE block buffs while providing some additional benefits. A1 Leech, very good for early game clan boss, as well as Hydra as well. And then she brings a bit of a cleanse and a bit of a heal here as well. Another quick note about Ugo, similar to Stag Knight, is that you do need to have the Sniper Mastery on her just to guarantee that she lands the 100% block buffs. Notice that it's only a 5% boost for each enemy alive. So sometimes you're fighting against only 4 enemies, which gives you a 20% boost, which makes her land at 95% land rate for the block buffs. So make sure you give Sniper for your Ugo so she has a 100% land on her block buffs. But she would be my pick, but there's some pretty good epics in this class as well. Like I said, Skull Crusher and Maneater as well. So moving on from the Ogryn Tribes, let's head on to the Lizardmen. And to me, it's still going to be Venomage here. Venomage is an incredible epic. Very good for clan boss, very good for Amius. One of the best heal reduction champions for Amius. And as we know, Amius is weak to heal reduction because he does have a lot of healing in his on his Form 1 attack. So having the ability to block that heal is very, very good. She also brings poisons, which can help deal some additional damage to Amius as well. And the decreased defense, decreased attack is very, very strong to keep your team alive. She's also very good against clan boss. And the Lizard Secret Room in Doom Tower, very, very good epic champion. Total package, can even solo dragon at some point. Solo normal dragon, for example, very, very good, does a lot of work there as well. Easy pick for best epic in this category here. Moving on to the Skinwalkers here, in terms of overall best epics, I would say it's probably a Kentum. A Kentum brings a speed in all bows aura. He also brings Hex, which can be really good. Main use for a Kentum probably is for hard spiders. So he can be your Hex debuffer, and then obviously you can kill the spiderlings, and then that Hex damage will translate to the Big Mama. A Kentum is really good, just like, yeah, laying down a bit of damage as well with the poisons. Can be useful even for like Hydra if you're really desperate for a Hex champion. So definitely a very, very good champion there. The other notables here would be Horferaze. Horferaze brings the revive, which is really, really strong for obviously faction wars and all that. But I think a Kentum here, there's a lot of epics here, but they're not super great. So a Kentum really stands out here in this bunch. Moving on to the Orcs. Best epic here, in my opinion, obviously Seer. Seer is still very, very relevant. Obviously, being an epic, it's easy to build her up to 6-star level. She's been super relevant in like recent event dungeons. She can still do obviously a lot of wave clearing for just regular dungeons. Still a big part of a lot of wave clear teams, speed clear teams like in Doom Tower and all that. A little bit less important nowadays, obviously, with the power creep of some of the other champions in the game. Obviously mythicals, obviously the blessings make other champions way more powerful, so you don't need somebody like Seer to bring all the damage. But she's still definitely one of the best epics in the game overall, and would be my pretty easy pick here for the best epic for the Orc faction. So moving on, we have the Demonspawn faction. Let's head on and check out the epics here. Personally, I think I had Allure as one of the best epics in the game, and I still think Allure is still probably the best epic in this faction. Obviously, she's not going to be as good in the hard Fire Knight difficulty, but she's an absolute goat in normal progression Fire Knight difficulty. So she's still very good there. She's still very good in Dark Fae, obviously. She's still an incredible champion in the faction wars when you're climbing through 21 trying to beat the boss. Allure is just massive against the boss. So she's going to be still very good as you're progressing through the game. And in terms of just overall epics, she's going to be the best in this bunch for Demonspawn. Honorable mention here for Magnar, one of the best epic damage dealers. If you +4 a Magnar, he actually still hits pretty good, relatively speaking. But he's not going to be, not going to be able to hold a candle against legendaries, like empowered legendaries and obviously mythicals nowadays. All right, so moving on, we have the Undead faction here. Let's check out some of the epics here. Now, we have some pretty good epics in this faction, but I think the best one is still going to be Seeker. Seeker is my choice for some of the best epics in the whole game. He brings a lot, even though he's a pretty old and simple champion. Like his kit only has 2 abilities. He has an 81 chance to revoke, which is really good for like faction wars, really good for Hydra. So just like as a backup, you can be very good. He has a turn meter boost, big turn meter boost, and an increased attack, right? And then he has a passive here that gives increased defense if he gets hit with the crit. But the big thing about him is that he enables a lot of clan boss teams, a lot of speed tune teams, and he's just generally very good in a lot of areas. You can use him in arena, you can use him in Hydra, faction wars. He's an epic, relatively easy to build. You don't necessarily need accuracy on him if you don't need to provoke. You just build him fast, for example. So a very, very strong epic here. One of the best. A lot of must have. A lot of people must have or wish list this champion as well, just to complete some of their speed tune teams. So one of the best. Some notables here. We got Husk. We got Volgoth. Very good epics here. We got Gore Grab as well. Just insane epics as well. But to me, Seeker stands above them as a must-have impactful epic. So moving on, we got the Dark Elves here. Dark Elves for the epics. Honestly, it's a little bit hard to choose the best epic for Dark Elves because there's not really too many that stand out, I think, in the modern day like meta. I think Spider has definitely gotten a lot of value just being a dungeon lead, and then obviously bringing the decreased defense and a small weaken. He can be used for the event bosses. So I've seen him used in the Odin boss, and I've seen him used against the Queen in the Queen event dungeon. Just having the boosted speed in dungeons for an epic is very strong, and then obviously the touchless decreased defense is very good. I wouldn't say that he's the best epic in this whole bunch because there's going to be slightly better ones. Like if you're just looking for that, just looking for like decreased defense, like we have Madame Sirius. She's still very good. And then obviously with the introduction of pinpoint set, she got a lot better. She won't be like a sheep target after placing her decreased defense and decreased attack. But I think for a total package for in terms of usability, I think Spider has definitely risen up quite a bit. So Spider personally, I think would be my pick for best epic for the Dark Elves, mainly because of this big dungeon speed battle, speed in all speed in dungeons, and of course his touchless A3 here. All right, so let's move on to the Knight Revs. So for Knight Revs in terms of overall epics, we did get a really good epic recently, Sabbatha here. She's a really good epic. She has this really cool revive with 100% turn meter that can be pretty interesting. Also puts a block damage on it. A very good ability for a void epic only. Also brings flexibility with increased defense, increased attack on one ability. But I think personally, I think it's going to be Whisper. Whisper is still very good, obviously for boss damage, extra attacks, yeah, decreased defense and weaken boosting here on his A3. Deals lots of damage against bosses. Can be used for against Hydra, just generally against bosses. Good for faction wars. Has her value gone up recently with the Chimera boss as well, because she brings some additional damage there as well. There's not too many good damage dealers for Chimera, so Whisper might be your best. So having her available to do some extra damage against the Chimera is actually very, very useful. There's obviously going to be some really good epics in this faction as well. Like I mentioned, Sabbatha. We also have Skull Crown. We have Rector Draft as well. Very good epics. Doom Priest as well. Miscreant Monster. So good epics in the Knight Revs, but to me, I think Whisper is still probably the best currently for Knight Revs. All right, so quickly moving on, we got the Dwarves here. If I had to pick one epic from this faction, it's gonna have to be Geomancer. Geomancer is still insanely good in this game after so many years. He was my pick for top epic in the whole game, and I still feel he's definitely up there in that conversation. He brings the easy to build champion. He's an easy to build champion, just requires accuracy, proper speed, and all that. Doesn't require damage stats, and he deals tons and tons of damage from his passive and his HP burn. He can still do a lot of damage against the Chimera. He's one of the best damage dealers in terms of epics for the Chimera. That doesn't mean a lot because the Chimera is really hard to deal damage against for epics champions, I found at least. But Geomancer can definitely pitch in, and for basically lower gear requirements than everybody else. He's a great damage dealer against bosses, very good against Iron Twins, Clan Boss, just massive champion everywhere. Obviously, Demitha is a very massive champion for Clan Boss. Great champion overall with the 3-turn block damage here. Just an insane ability, actually, when you think about 3-turn block damage. But, general usage, Geomancer is top in the game for sure. So moving on, we got the Shadowkin here. Shadowkin for the epics. Not too many great ones, even though they have tons of real epics here. Like notable mention would be Gembo, just for a kind of basic void damage dealer, does bring speed in arena battles, which is kind of helpful. But to me, I think it's just Taragi. He brings a total package. He has AoE provokes, he brings poisons, he brings shields and ally protections. Just very good for, you know, keeping your team alive, dealing damage against single target bosses, controlling waves. Just a really, really good champion. And to me, he's kind of a standout against all these other epics, which feels really bloated considering that there's not really a super standout epic from so many of them. But for me, yeah, easy Taragi from the Shadowkin. And the last but not least, the Sylvan Watchers. In terms of overall epics here, I really like Mistwriter Dithey. Mistwriter Dithey, he self-buffs himself and he lands an AoE decreased defense. He actually hits pretty hard. And then he has a chance for an extra turn as well. So he actually hits pretty hard as well. So really, really useful for this faction considering they don't really have super strong damage dealers. So having Mistwriter Dithey is really, really useful. If you have him, definitely worth using. Notable mentions here, Creoldin, very, very good against Hard Fire Knight. He's actually a pretty good wave control champion as well, bringing increased speed and an AoE freeze. Obviously, his A1 is going to be really good against the Hard Fire Knight. Another really good champion is Ruella. Ruella brings multiple buffs with decreased speed, decreased defense, and weaken on one ability. Very good turn meter boost as well. Very good ability for Hard Fire Knight. Even Sand Devil can be used as well. But I really like the damage potential from the Dithey here, especially as an epic. Very, very good champion. And of course, we patiently wait for our last faction in the game, at least for now. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my quick kind of top epic per faction. Let me know in the comments below if you guys agree or disagree. I think I encompassed and reasoned my way through them pretty well. A lot of these epics I have experience with progressing through the game, so I get a pretty good feel of how well they'll do in terms of how well they age with your account as well. So I try to suggest champions that have long-term longevity as well as just being overall the best per faction. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you guys disagree or if you guys agree, and let me know if you like these kinds of videos. We'll try to maybe revisit some of my old lists from the past if this video is something that you guys want to see a little bit more of. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.